Hi everyone, this is Jennifer. I wanted to talk about spiritually sensitive kids. I base my knowledge of this subject off of things that I experienced when I was a kid. So, it's important to know that, there are kids that are born more spiritually sensitive than other kids. And you can usually spot those kids by, usually they're a little more withdrawn, they're a little more shy. Spiritually sensitive children tend to be more tired than your average kid. They can tend to pick up moods of other people. They can tend to pick up body pains of other people. Coming into their life, I help to empower them, introduce them to angels that can help to keep them safe and protected. I work with their parents to keep their house cleansed, smudged, things like that, which I will explain in another video. I try to help the whole family understand what it's like to have a spiritual child. Spiritual children do sense and feel things that are very real to them. So just trying to brush it off and say, oh, that's your imagination, can be damaging to that child. But I do want to share a story of one of my spiritually sensitive kids. And I shouldn't say one of them. It's a whole family I worked with. I did wear their necklaces today. They made these necklaces for me. It's a little set of twins. We have Zoe and Madison. And I believe they were about 6 years old when I had met them, and their mom had called and said that Zoe, it started out as a haunted house call, like they thought maybe there was something haunting their house. And what it turned out to be was that Zoe was, extra spiritually sensitive. She basically holds probably the same qualities to be a medium. When kids are spiritually sensitive and it's that big when they're little, chances are they really do hold a mediumship about them. Which means that when you're spiritually gifted, especially if you're a medium, it's almost like wearing a big billboard on your head that says, hey, I can sense you, I can heal you, I can help you. However, the spirit world doesn't have a sense of time, so they can bother people in the middle of the night, during the day, anytime really. But when it comes to a child, they only sense the healing part of the child, and they don't realize that the child can't help them just yet. Zoe was experiencing some pretty scary things. She had paranormal activity happening around her. Things were moving. She was seeing a guy with glass in his head, and it was actually terrorizing her. So I went out there with my friend Donna, who is with Past of Ohio. She has her own paranormal group. So she and I went out there, just the two of us, to check out their house. And when we got there, we realized what was going on in the house had more to do with the child. If you're a spiritually sensitive child, then more paranormal stuff is going to happen in your home. So I started working with Zoe and her parents and her little sister Madison. When I got to their home and I met the family, I did bring my shell that I sage with. And Donna and I had cleaned out the bowl before we went to the house, and there was nothing in it, so that when I got to the house, I could open my sage, put the sage in the little shell bowl thing, and, cleanse their house. After, walking through the house and talking with the family, we realized that what she was seeing was really scary. Male figure that had glass all in his head. I pulled out my sage bowl to cleanse their home, and there was a piece of glass in it. Now, there's no way that piece of glass could have gotten in there. Even Donna, who was with me, watched me clean the bowl out and put it in the bag before we ever made the trip to their house. So I thought that was quite fascinating, and it also validated that what Zoe was seeing came to fruition somehow in my bowl that I was going to put my sage in and smudge. It's just too much of a coincidence to ignore. And definitely validated that I needed to be there to help that family. Since then, they've kept in great contact. Zoe's doing so much better. We hooked her up with some little crystal things to wear because crystals are very healing and protective for spiritually sensitive kids. So this is just kind of one of the videos that is going to kind of open you up to learning more about kids that are spiritually sensitive. Especially if you are a parent of a spiritually sensitive kid, you have to take extra care of these kids. Not that you don't have to take care of all of your kids, but these kids really need different things in their life. Introducing them to crystals and stones, or maybe not, and just putting them in the room for them not knowing why they're in the room is going to raise the vibration of the room. Salt lamps, such as that, they clean the room physically and metaphysically, also raises the vibration of the room. And when I talk about raising a vibration, I'm talking about an energy vibration. There's energy everywhere, and you can usually feel the higher energy from the lower, depressing energy. With a spiritually sensitive kid, you want that higher energy so that nothing low realm can be in there. So anything like a salt lamp. Amethyst is great to have for a spiritually sensitive kid. It's also very healing. Also raises the vibration of other crystals in the room. Something like a clear crystal quartz is great for a spiritually sensitive kid. But now let's talk a little bit more about how to know where your kid is, when it comes to spiritually sensitive kids. Most of the time, they might be the bookworm, the person that likes to kind of stay back and put their nose in a book, and they're not quite as social as everybody else. Spiritually sensitive kids, sometimes it's too much for them to be in a big social environment. They feel too much and they don't even know what they're feeling. Sometimes they'll feel stuff and they'll think it's them, so they have a tendency to be depressed and not know why. Spiritually sensitive kids also have great imaginations. Most of them do have an imaginary friend. Based on my own experience as a child with my own imaginary friend, I realized later that was my spirit guide. But I didn't know that when I was a kid. But as long as their imaginary friends are good and kind and nice, you're good. But if they're telling them things that are not okay, then it's probably not a spirit guide. I don't want them to feel afraid, and I don't want you to feel afraid as a parent. My goal is to empower spiritually sensitive children. They are very gifted, but they're not old enough to know how to use that gift. They're not old enough to know what to do with it. So introducing them to an angel source or a God source that you believe in, to help them feel like there is a higher power that will keep them safe and protected. And really listening to them, encouraging them to talk about the stuff they're sensing and feeling and all that stuff is going to be key. But they still have to be a kid. So, you may have a spiritually sensitive kid, and psychic kids can tell you who's coming over when you don't know, and that person shows up. They can tell you things that are coming up, and then it actually happens. Try not to freak them out if you happen to experience that. Just remind them how amazing their gift is. Sometimes people freak out a little bit. Well, they said this was going to happen, and it did. And then it kind of shuts their kid down and makes them feel like they did something wrong. Make sure your kids you always have an open line of communication. If something feels good, roll with it. If it feels negative, definitely reach out, get some help for the negative things. Spiritually sensitive kids do feel a lot of emotions. I personally, to this very day, at the age of 45, still see my own counselor. So I'm not saying, go put your kid in counseling, but sometimes it really does help to understand what's going on with them, because you do feel a lot, and especially as a child. I always think it's wonderful making sure that your kids are allowed to talk about weird things they feel or weird things they sense. And it's definitely okay if they are not the big social butterfly that maybe some of the other kids are. That just means they're just kind of too sensitive to feel that. Anyways, I so much appreciate you checking out my videos. If you have any questions, please leave something in the comments and I'll make another video about that. But I had to introduce my little Madison and Zoe and their awesome necklaces they gave me, and shout out to their awesome parents who are doing a great job. Those girls are thriving. They're doing fantastic. One day when they get a little bit older, I am sure that Zoe will be sitting behind a camera doing exactly what I am doing, and that is helping people to understand their gifts, helping people to heal. So thank you so much for checking out my video. Have a great day.